Thank you very much for your interest in my research topic. My name is Sara Rosario Vázquez. I am Dominican and I work at the University of Puerto Rico, Rio Piedras campus. The title of my research is Educational Practices of University Professors in the Teaching of Future Secondary Level Mathematics Teachers. Regardless of your university major of academic background, we must be prepared to teach what we have learned. For those who train future teachers, the teaching methods they use are essentials. There's a gap in the study of pedagogical knowledge at university teaching practices. Content knowledge, research, degrees, and experience are often prioritized, but they are not the only important factors with selecting teacher educators. According to Black and Williams, what happened in the classroom cannot be a secret. They make analogy with the black box of our plane. What happens in the classroom should be of interest to teachers, students, educational leaders, employers, and the entire university community. The theoretical framework is based on Schulman categories of foundational knowledge. We include six essential aspects: content knowledge, curriculum knowledge, pedagogical content knowledge, knowledge of leaders, knowledge of educational contents, and knowledge of educational aims. The empirical framework validates the theoretical framework by demonstrating that teaching directly impacts learning. It shows that the development of pedagogical skills in university professors is the responsibility of the professor themselves, not the institutions. The research does two purpose and six questions. The main one is, what are the educational practices of professors who prepare future mathematics teachers? And it also explores difference between teachers with and without educational training. The analyze descriptive analyze T-squared test. The methodology was quantitative, using a survey design, and a questionnaire was provided to professors and teaching assistants at a public university. The sampling was non-probability and the ethical aspect with respect. Participation was voluntary and the participants completed the informed consent form. The question had 6 parts, 64 items, and the response options were based for frequency and time. Content validity was ensured by reviewing students' two evaluation panels we held with 10 experts and 10 cognitive interviews. Reliability was assessed with the data collection from the questionnaire and Cronbach alpha resource runs for 0.70 to 0.90 in the comparing data, indicating accepted values for the item correlation. Validity indicates how appropriate and adequate the use or interpretation of the questionnaire are. Now let's move on the results. It is important to note that this questionnaire was administered in Spanish. However, as translated into English for the purpose of this presentation. Of the 89 professors, 67 participate, reflecting a 75.3% response rate. Most participants had between 6 to 10 years and 31 or more years of experience. To comparing groups, 29 those who had training in education and 25 those who had no training in education. 15 did not identify their profession they were with for descriptive statistics. Most had doctoral degrees in mathematics, science, statistics, and higher education. Some of the class planning strategies and can highlight are guiding students on the teaching strategies the professor used at the beginning of the course with about 80.6% and indicating the techniques for evaluation. It was interesting to learn that 43.3% explored the objectives and expectations students have at the beginning of the course. 64.2% apply different techniques strategies according to students' learning styles, and the 49.3% promote autonomous learning. When comparing the groups, significant differences were found in planning. It was more common for professors with education training to plan according to students' expectations and objectives, include experience outside the classroom to make the class more dynamic and relevant, and focus planning on formative rather than just summative evaluation. It was more common among professors without education training to offer students the opportunity to revise and resume assignments. The most commonly used teaching strategies were problem solving, interactive classes, reading for critical analysis, exploring prior knowledge using software-based presentations, and integrating technology into explanation. There were significant differences between the two groups. Professors with educational training more commonly use presentations to explain. Those without education training tend to go straight to practicing exercise. However, both groups use software to explain their topics. It was more common for those with education training to use strategies that integrate socialization. The most common evaluation techniques were exams, projects, observation of student participation and performance, and both group and individual exercise. Significant differences were found between the comparing groups. Professors with educational training more commonly include exams with theory and practices components, assigned projects, portfolios, oral reports, and check student attendance lists. In conclusion, it was shown that both groups of professors have different ways of planning, teaching, and evaluation. Professors with education and training tend to offer more individualized instruction, integrate technology more, and continue their professional development. In contrast, those without educational training use more homogeneous evaluation techniques, rely more on traditional blackboards and focus their classes on problem solving. It is recommended that continuing educational be institutionalized as part of university calendar and the Kirkpatrick evaluation model, with its four levels: reaction, learning, behavior, and resource. Be used to determine the true impact of these training courses. As part of faculty recruitment, we must provide pedagogical support. There should be more discussion forums on pedagogical content knowledge for those faculties who lack training in education, development programs for the enrichment and construction for instruments for assessing student learning. Thank you very much. If you would like to contact me, read my research, or follow me for social media, you can scan these QR codes. They're following our reference. Gracias.